Welcome back. It's Jerry with Sky Management. Today, my brother Ross and I are going to be replacing a couple of thermostats and a hot water heater. It'll be a fun time, so stick with us. We're going to get right into it. We've had a resident here in one of our apartment buildings that's been complaining that their hot water heater has been tripping off in the evenings, and they've had to push a reset button several times, and that usually means one of two things. Either it's got a bad element or it's got a bad thermostat. 9 times out of 10, it's the thermostat.
First thing you do before you want to tear into this water heater is you want to turn the power off. So I've turned the breaker off, run into this water heater, and then we're going to remove both panels, the top panel and the bottom panel. It takes, depending on the type of water heater, it'll take different kinds of screwdrivers. This one's a flathead to take the screws out. There's a main element and a secondary thermostat. The secondary one is the one on the bottom, and the main one is this one on the top. So you want to get to where you can see it. It has a plastic cover over the front of it. You can lift it up or perhaps pull it off. You'll see all these screws inside here. Now, one thing we're going to want to do before we go too far is I've got a voltmeter here. I've seen breaker boxes labeled wrong before, so even though I turned off the breaker that says hot water heater, I'm going to take my voltmeter and set it to volt squiggly line. That's for alternating current. And I'm going to touch the 2 top screws with my meter. It's these 2 that are all the way up here at the top. And it's off. It's reading 0. So the power's cut off to this water heater. So now what we're going to do is we have our replacement thermostat. I'm going to make sure that if you have a water heater that has 2 elements, then you want to have the main thermostat needs to be one that is set up for the bottom element. So this one says it's an upper thermostat, so that's for this one. If there's one that says a single element, then it doesn't have the lines to run down to the second element, even though it looks very similar. So we're going to take this one out of the package, and we're going to disconnect all the wires from this one. And you want to watch where the wires come off, because you want to put them on the next thermostat exactly the same way. So we're going to pull all of our wires off of this line. There'll be wires that will run to this top element, just like that one, and there's lines that run to the bottom element, and then the top 2 screws are where the power's coming in. This one has quite a bit of insulation in it, and it's kind of hard to get to. Some of them will be a little easier. When you go to put the wires back in, sometimes it's nice to have a pair of needle nose pliers to help guide them into where they need to go. Okay, we've got all of our wires off of there. Now to remove the thermostat, there are 2 little tabs right here, one on each side, one there, one on that side, and you have to lift those tabs up and then slide the thermostat up to get it off of the clip. And then we should be able to get it out. Okay, I've got the new thermostat. I'm going to do the same thing in reverse. So we gotta get it. Go bottom first, in there. May have to lift up those tabs to get it slid down. Clipped in, okay, it's in there. Then we gotta fish out the wires from back behind it. And we're gonna put them back in. This middle screw on the right side has 2 wires on it. If you have a dual element system. All right, you want to look it over and make sure all the wires look good and they're not going to get pinched or anything when we close it back up. Our main upper element is now installed, and we'll move on to the bottom one. In the bottom element, the thermostat is a little simpler. There's only 2 wires running to it, so it's the same process. It'll just be a little bit easier. Again, you're going to want to be mindful as to which wire goes where, but it's pretty easy to tell because even though they're both black, the one on the bottom goes down, the one coming in from the top goes up, so that's pretty easy. When you have the wires disconnected, you have those little tabs on the side. Lift those tabs up, push up on the thermostat, it'll slide out. Grab the new one. Slide it down in there, get it behind those tabs. That clip holds it against the metal can, and that's how it reads the temperature of the tank. So you gotta make sure you get it pressed up against there. And then we'll put our wires back in. If you're in a hurry, you could use a power screwdriver for this. Just don't get too aggressive with it and strip them out. Once we've got it all wired up, we're going to check our thermostat settings. You want your thermostats to be set roughly about the same place, so I'm going to put both of these, set them on 125. There's the one on the bottom, the one on the top. Turn it to about 125, and we'll go with that and see what the residents think on the temperature. So now you can go ahead and close up these compartments. You're gonna put the insulation back in there. Make sure the wires aren't where they're gonna get pinched. When you're putting the wires back in, you can inspect the wires and make sure none of them are burnt anywhere, but you don't want one of the wires to lay over across the top of one of the screws anywhere. So we kind of tuck the insulation in there and then put the wire back on top of it so that the wire doesn't get laid up against one of the screws. We put the panel back on. A lot of these, the bottom part of the panel is tapered and slides down inside, and then the screw holds the top on. So we've got it all hooked up now. We're ready to turn the power back onto it. When you turn the power back on, if the water in the tank is cold because it's been off because the thermostat was bad, then you'll be able to hear it. Typically you can hear it start to hiss a little bit. That's it warming up. So we're going to turn the breaker on and then we can listen for that hiss. Takes a couple of seconds. There it is, and it's heating up now, so everything came on the way it was supposed to. So we're gonna let it ride like this and see what the residents think about the water temperature.